I was sitting in the worn, comfortable armchair by the window, the one Thomas always called the captain's seat, when the call came. It wasn't a call of concern, nor one of condolence, though my husband of 42 years had passed just 6 months prior. It was a call of pure, unadulterated self-interest. It was my daughter-in-law, Clara. Her voice was sharp, cutting through the quiet afternoon like shattered glass. "Martha, I'm calling about the house, the lake house. We're listing it tomorrow." I remember holding my breath, the late autumn sun casting long shadows across the living room carpet. I loved that lake house. It was where Thomas and I had planned to spend our final years, watching the seasons change from the porch swing. Now, this woman, my son's wife, a woman I had welcomed into our family with open arms and a naive heart, was casually dismantling my future. "Clara, what are you talking about? The will hasn't even finished probate, and that house is legally mine." My voice was calmer than my heart, a skill you learn after decades of quiet strength. She actually laughed, a high, brittle sound that was full of contempt. "Oh, Martha, let's be real. You're retired, you're a widow, you're living solely on Social Security and the small life insurance payout Thomas left. You can't afford the maintenance, let alone the taxes. Honestly, we are doing you a favor. We are saving you from being a burden." The word burden hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. She continued, cold and professional. "We found a buyer offering a fantastic price. It's enough to cover Michael's urgent business investment, and we'll deposit your share. Enough for you to rent a small, perfectly adequate apartment in town. You'll be much closer to us, which again is a favor to you. Think of your health, Martha. You're alone now. You are alone now." That was the phrase that broke me, not the theft, but the sheer cruelty of her final dismissal. After all the years I spent building a family, sacrificing my own dreams for them, I was reduced to a liability, a vulnerable old woman whose assets were now fair game. But you know what I did? I didn't cry. I took a slow, deep breath, just as Thomas had taught me when life felt overwhelming, and I smiled. A quiet, almost secret smile that no one, especially not Clara, would have understood. Because there was something my dear, calculating daughter-in-law didn't know. Something she had completely missed in her greedy rush to cash in on my grief. "Clara," I replied, my voice now low, steady, and clear, "you've forgotten one thing." "What is that, Martha? What could you possibly have to say?" She snapped, impatient with my delay. "The clock," I simply said. "You've forgotten the clock. You're listing it tomorrow, but I was just waiting for the clock to strike midnight." And I hung up. Now, before you think I'm just a sentimental old fool who was about to be left destitute, let me tell you my story. My name is Martha Jenkins, and I am 71 years old. And for the past 20 years, I had been preparing for this very moment, thanks to the quiet, meticulous planning of the one man who truly understood the world, my husband Thomas. My late husband Thomas was an accountant, but he was also a man who had seen the ugly side of family dynamics. His own sister had tried to contest his mother's will over a vintage piano. That incident taught him that greed can live even in the hearts of those you raise with love. So Thomas didn't just plan for death, he planned for betrayal. 3 days before he died, Thomas had handed me a heavy, thick manila envelope, much like the one Antonia found in her dresser. "Martha," he'd said, "put this in the safe deposit box. Not the joint one. The other one, the private one I opened last year. If anything happens to me, you open it only when you truly need it, when you feel ready to fight back." In my grief, I hadn't given it much thought. I had simply done as he asked, storing it away, lost in the fog of loss. Clara had been a whirlwind of activity, offering to handle everything, from the funeral arrangements to the messy details of our finances. She was everywhere, offering comfort that now tasted like poison. I see now her kindness was just a calculated ploy to gain access and find any loophole to exploit. But she had missed the most important piece of the puzzle, the private safe deposit box that held Thomas's final brilliant strategy. That day, after Clara's cold phone call, I found that small, plain key in my jewelry box. I drove straight to the bank, my hand steady on the wheel of Thomas's old Buick. It was time to open the box. What I found inside wasn't just a simple will. It was a masterpiece of financial engineering, a silent declaration of financial independence, and a detailed blueprint for justice. The box contained legal documents, deeds, bank certificates, and most importantly, a handwritten letter from Thomas himself. As I sat there surrounded by the cool, sterile air of the bank vault room, I felt Thomas's presence. My dear Martha, the letter began, if you are reading this, it means I am no longer with you, and that someone you love is trying to hurt you. Forgive me for not telling you while I was alive, but I wanted to protect you from worries and from greed. Thomas had been preparing for this moment for 20 years. He hadn't just saved our money, he had invested it quietly, strategically, building an entire portfolio of assets that I knew nothing about. The beach house Clara was so desperate to sell, it was merely a distraction. Thomas's real legacy was something far, far greater. The documents revealed 6 other properties, including a commercial office building downtown, a small luxury condo in Florida, and the deed to the very piece of land where Clara and Michael's brand new dream home was being built. I was rich. On paper, I was quietly rich, but the most critical document was the deed to the building site. Clara had been pressuring Michael to rush the build, using most of their savings on the foundation. She thought she was building her future. But Thomas's meticulous plan revealed that the land was, and always had been, owned by a single-member LLC limited liability company named MTJ Holdings, Martha Thomas Jenkins Holdings. And I, Martha, was the sole and undisputed owner of that LLC. I smiled again. This time, it wasn't just a quiet smile. It was a knowing smile, the smile of a woman who had just realized she held all the cards. The game, my dears, had just begun, and Clara and Michael were about to learn that you never play Monopoly with an accountant who planned for betrayal. I left the bank that day not as a poor, grieving widow, but as the silent architect of a meticulously planned revenge. The feeling was not one of rage, but of profound determination. Thomas had given me the power, and now it was my duty to use it, not just for my own dignity, but for Michael's sake, too. My son, bless his kind but naive heart, was a pawn in Clara's ambitious game. He truly believed in her urgent business investments. My first call was not to a family lawyer, but to Mr. Arthur Peterson, Thomas's longtime business attorney, a man who knew exactly how Thomas operated. Mr. Peterson, I need you to discreetly retrieve the lake house. Clara is attempting a fraudulent sale, I explained, and I need you to confirm the legal standing of MTJ Holdings immediately. Mr. Peterson, an old-school gentleman with a sharp mind, listened quietly. Mrs. Jenkins, I always knew Thomas was a brilliant investor. But this is a chess game. You have all the pieces, ma'am. What is your strategy? Do you want to prosecute them? No, Mr. Peterson. Not yet, I replied. I don't want justice as a court sentence. I want it as a life lesson. I want them to hit rock bottom, but only just long enough to see what they threw away. I need you to nullify the lake house sale quietly, and then I need you to prepare the papers for the lot where their new house is being built. The eviction notice? He asked, a hint of awe in his voice. The eviction notice, I confirmed, but do not serve it. Not until I give the word. We must wait for the perfect moment, when they have invested everything they own, when they are at their most vulnerable, and when they believe they have officially left me destitute. Over the next 2 weeks, I lived a double life. In the morning, I was Martha, the fragile, poor widow, who walked to the grocery store with a heavy sigh. The neighbors, particularly Mrs. Higgins, would stop me with a mix of pity and morbid curiosity. Oh, Martha, dear, is it true your daughter-in-law sold the lake house? That beautiful place? Oh, what a shame. Those young people. No respect for tradition. I would nod sadly, my eyes downcast. It's true, Helen. They said I couldn't manage. They said it was for the best. And that new house they're building? Michael's going to be so successful, I hear. You should be proud, dear. I would simply smile. Yes, I'm very proud of Michael. I could have easily said, the land is mine, Helen, but that would have ruined the performance. I was committed to the narrative. I needed the social proof of my poverty to make the final lesson resonate. The news I received from Mr. Peterson was a continuous flow of power. First, the lake house sale was successfully and quietly nullified. The buyers received their money back, and my sanctuary was officially mine again. Then the paperwork for the construction lot was complete. MTJ Holdings was ready to reclaim its land. Michael and Clara had sunk almost every dime they had into the foundation and the materials. They were entirely leveraged on this project. They were now financially fragile, resting their entire future on a piece of ground that legally belonged to the poor old woman they had laughed at. I watched Clara's social media like a hawk. She was constantly posting smug photos. Future millionaires, building our empire. Goodbye to old money, hello to new investments. She was so focused on building her new life on my old assets that she couldn't see the silent tidal wave approaching. The final piece of Thomas's planning was revealed when I found a small, unmarked box in the attic. Inside was a single, old-fashioned music box and a letter. My dearest Martha, Thomas's familiar handwriting read, "If you ever need to remind Michael of what he's lost, play him this song. It's the tune from the music box his grandmother gave him, the one he lost when he was 7. He doesn't remember losing it, but he remembers the feeling of finding it. It will remind him of where his true home is, and that the greatest treasure is not money, but unconditional love." Thomas wasn't just an accountant, he was a psychologist. He had planned not just the financial revenge, but the emotional repair. The game wasn't just about taking back, it was about giving back the right way. I called Mr. Peterson again. "The time is right, Arthur. Serve the papers tomorrow morning. Send the eviction notice to Clara's new construction site. Are you ready for the fallout, Mrs. Jenkins?" I looked at the small music box. "I am, Arthur. I have found my dignity." Now it's time they find theirs. The papers were served at 8 a.m. the following morning. I knew the exact time because Mr. Peterson's secretary confirmed the delivery via text. I sat in my armchair, the captain's seat, drinking coffee with the same quiet determination that had fueled me for weeks. The reaction was immediate and volcanic. At 8:15 a.m. my phone rang. It was Michael. He didn't use a greeting. He was shouting, his voice thick with confusion and panic. "Mom, what the hell is this? We just got some papers, an eviction notice from MTJ Holdings." "What is MTJ Holdings?" "It says we have 72 hours to remove all equipment from the site, or it will be seized." "Mom, this has to be a mistake, a scam." I kept my voice low and steady, contrasting sharply with his hysteria. "Michael, calm down. What are you talking about?" "Eviction. From where?" "From the land, Mom, the new house. The foundation is being poured today. We're going to lose everything." "Lose everything, Michael? You mean you're going to lose the land I legally own?" A stunned silence followed. It was a beautiful silence, thick with dawning comprehension. "What did you say, Mom? What do you mean you own it?" "MTJ Holdings, honey. Martha Thomas Jenkins Holdings. A very small, very quiet LLC that Thomas set up 20 years ago. The deed to that lot was transferred to the LLC 15 years ago. Clara never looked past the surface sale records. The land has always been ours, Michael, and now it's mine." The next hour was a blur of desperation and accusations. Clara was screaming in the background, demanding to know where I had hidden the money, why I had betrayed them, and how I could be so cruel. "Cruel, Clara." I finally broke my quiet facade. "Cruel is calling your husband's grieving mother to casually announce you are selling her home out from under her, all while calling her a financial burden. Cruel is rushing to sell the lake house for a pittance because you need the cash for Michael's urgent investment. An investment I now know doesn't even exist. This isn't cruelty, Clara. This is consequence. This is a life lesson." Michael got back on the line, his voice now broken, devoid of anger, filled only with despair. "Mom, we poured everything into that foundation. Everything. We sold all our investments. We're broke. We have nothing left. Nothing left, Michael. You still have your health. You still have your dignity. You still have each other. And you still have the home your father and I gave you, the one Clara tried to sell." I let the truth hang there. "Did you think I would let you throw away our family's legacy for a lie, Michael?" He couldn't answer. He just hung up. The climax had passed. The revelation had been delivered. Now began the long, quiet process of the aftermath. Over the next few days, Michael and Clara descended into a hell of their own making. They were forced to hire a lawyer who quickly confirmed the ironclad legality of MTJ Holdings. They were ordered to halt all construction and remove their equipment or risk losing everything they had invested in the foundation and materials. They came to my house that evening. Clara was not the glamorous, confident woman I knew. She was pale, tear-stained, and frantic. Michael was worse, defeated, silent, his face etched with shame. "Martha, I beg you, Clara pleaded, falling to her knees, a sight I never thought I'd see. Please, we'll do anything. We'll give you the money from the lake house sale back. We'll sign any document. Just please don't take the land. We have nothing left. I looked at Michael, not Clara. Michael, look at her. Look at the consequences of chasing an illusion. You let greed blind you to the difference between a house and a home, between a wife and a partner, between dignity and a debt. Then I did something unexpected. I didn't accept her plea. The eviction stands, Clara. You must vacate the property. The land is mine. But you, Michael, are always welcome in your mother's home. Not for money, but for love. You have 72 hours to remove your things from the lot. They left in silence, the true, devastating nature of the loss finally sinking in. It wasn't the loss of land, but the loss of a future built on a foundation of lies and contempt. The truth is, seeing my son Michael so utterly broken was far more painful than Clara's betrayal, but Thomas's plan wasn't designed to destroy, it was designed to rebuild. Michael called me the next evening, his voice barely a whisper. Clara had left him. The pressure of the debt and the truth of her own deceit had been too much. She fled to her sister's house, taking what little liquid cash they had left. "Mom, I'm ruined," he said. "I have nothing. I'm staying with a friend. I don't know what to do." "You do know what to do, Michael," I replied gently. "You come home. Your mother's home. Not the place you were forced to rent, but the home where you grew up. The offer I made stands, not for money, but for love." When Michael arrived, he wasn't the successful, polished young man I knew. He was a shell of his former self, exhausted, ashamed, and deeply humbled. I didn't pry. I didn't lecture. I just gave him his old room back, the one with the dusty baseball trophies and the faint smell of old wood and childhood. It took Michael weeks to look me in the eye. He was paralyzed by guilt, convinced he had ruined his life, and worse, that he had failed his father. One evening, he sat with me in the living room. "Mom," he confessed, "I'm sorry. I let Clara convince me that you were weak, that you couldn't manage, that we were entitled to your assets. I was so blinded by the promise of financial freedom that I lost my way. The freedom to be a slave to greed, Michael? That's not freedom. That's a prison," I said, looking at him with the love only a mother can give. "Your father didn't leave us this wealth so we could buy bigger houses. He left it so you could learn a priceless lesson about the dignity of self-reliance." Then I walked over to the mantelpiece and picked up the small, ornate music box from the attic. I wound the key and let the faint, familiar tune fill the room. Michael's eyes widened, filling with sudden, stinging tears. "The music box," he whispered. "Grandma gave it to me. I thought I lost it when I was 7. You didn't lose it, Michael. Your father found it, repaired it, and kept it safe. He knew you would need to be reminded of where your true treasures are hidden." The moment the song ended, I handed him the deed to the commercial office building, the biggest asset in the entire MTJ Holdings portfolio. "What is this, Mom?" "It's your fresh start, Michael. The property is worth millions, but the most valuable thing in that building isn't the rent it collects. It's the dignity of self-reliance it can give you. Your father left this for you to use when you were ready, not for Clara to steal when you were weak. I want you to start over. Use the income to pay off your debts, invest wisely, and build something real, something honest." Michael looked from the deed to me, the magnitude of the gift and the lesson finally washing over him. He didn't hug me. He didn't thank me with words. He just looked at me with a depth of respect and gratitude I hadn't seen in years. "I will earn this, Mom, I promise. I will earn the right to carry Dad's name." He didn't ask about Clara, didn't mention the lost lake house, or the extravagant life they had planned. The lesson was complete. He had learned to value dignity and self-respect over greed and entitlement. 6 months later, my life had found a new, quiet balance that was far more satisfying than the pretense of richness. Michael was back on his feet. He took the deed, secured a small loan against the property's income, and paid off all his lingering debts. He started a small consulting firm out of one of the office building's smallest units. A firm built on integrity and the value of hard work, not on Clara's empty promises. He was working harder than ever, but he was happy, truly happy, for the first time in years. He visited me every Sunday, not out of obligation, but out of genuine respect. He no longer saw me as a poor, frail widow. He saw me as the powerful, silent architect of his second chance. "Mom," he said one Sunday looking at the lake house deed, "I want to do something for you. something to honor Dad. I want us to sell that land, the lot where Clara was building our house, and donate the funds to a local charity that supports women who are victims of financial fraud. I smiled, feeling a profound sense of satisfaction. My son, who was once blind to greed, was now seeing the world through Thomas's compassionate eyes. It's a beautiful idea, Michael, but why sell it? Let's use that land. Let's build something real on it. Let's build the Thomas Jenkins Center for Financial Independence, a place where women like Clara and like me, when I was vulnerable, can learn how to protect their assets and find their own self-reliance. Let's build a legacy of quiet strength, not a monument to a lie. And that is exactly what we did. Michael handled the construction, using the office building's income to finance the project. We created a nonprofit foundation, and I became the quiet chairwoman of the board, a true rich widow, but rich in purpose, not just paper. The center stands today on the very foundation Clara poured, a testament to a painful lesson transformed into a lasting legacy. It is a constant reminder that the greatest independence is not just financial, but the dignity of knowing your own worth. As for Clara, I heard she never truly settled down. She is still chasing that elusive financial freedom in other cities, always looking for a shortcut, always trying to find a man to bail her out. She never learned the lesson, but Michael did. And that, my dears, is the story of how my husband's final plan saved my son, healed my heart, and turned an act of ultimate betrayal into a beautiful legacy of justice and unconditional love. The final lesson from Aunt Cora. If this story has touched your heart, remember the profound lesson. Don't let your fear of being seen as poor or frail make you desperate, and never let greed blind you to the dignity of honesty. The most powerful revenge is not financial ruin, but self-transformation. Martha won, not by taking money, but by teaching her son the value of a single, honestly earned dollar and the importance of an unbroken heart. If you know someone who needs to hear this story of quiet strength and profound redemption, please share it and tell me in the comments, what is the most valuable lesson Thomas taught Martha? Join Aunt Cora's Porch every evening for another story that will stay with you long after it ends.